well, welcome today. Thank you so much for giving us some time. And whether you're here locally or far away. So I did email out an eval form, an evaluation form. If you guys could just fill that out, you can even just type in the answers in an email, just to give me some feedback as to how today went. And then too, if you're interested in learning more about any of these products, okay? And since we have a smaller group, if you guys want, you can also ask questions along the way. So let's get started. So do both of you have Medicare Advantage plans that are $0 monthly premiums?
Yep.
Okay. And I figure a lot of our clients, they do, but there are a few still that have the one that has a monthly premium. So whether you are anticipating a hospitalization, if it's unexpected or you're anticipating it, there are a lot of costs that are involved, which hopefully you guys haven't had to use that, but have you had to be hospitalized in the last year or so?
I haven't.
Well, good. Yeah, we had an in-person seminar here today, and somebody did have to use their plan. So just kind of curious to see what they had to pay and how that went, but there are a lot of costs that are involved. So that brings me to, can you afford to be hospitalized when you have a Medicare Advantage plan? And then in addition to the hospitalization costs, there are also other out-of-pocket costs that come along, your copays and things as you go to use your plan. So today we're really going to focus on what type of coverage could you have to cover the hospitalization, number one, but then also to those other copays. So what is hospitalization? Or I'm sorry, what is hospital indemnity? Hospital indemnity comes in, the indemnity piece, it comes in and it acts as a reimbursement or compensation for you for those copays. So the main focus today, we're going to talk about definitely the hospitalization stays, because that is the highest costing copay that you will see on your Medicare Advantage plans, whether it's 1 to 5 days, or maybe it's 1 to 6 days that you pay as a member if you were hospitalized per day. So these plans give you protection and they just help you to prepare to avoid those costs. So how do these plans work? Well, they pay you out cash directly to you. Generally, as long as you have everything in order, the plans could take anywhere from like 10 to 30 days to pay out, but sometimes you maybe don't even have your bills in that amount of time. As long as you've got everything in order, and they will pay out fairly quickly. The payouts for these hospital indemnity plans, they can be used for anything. You can use them for copays, medications, any services that you had done. You could even use them for travel. So say you are hospitalized and your family members live out of state. If you need to fly them in, then you can use that money towards that to help with your care that you maybe need. You can also use it for hotel stays, for pet care, literally anything. And then how flexible are these plans? These plans are designed to be extremely flexible so that we can look at your specific Medicare Advantage plan and determine what are the needs what are you concerned about potentially? Or is it the hospitalization copays for days 1 through 5? Is it skilled nursing pay? There's a lot of different things, but that's what we can do is we can sit down with you and look to see where you maybe want to have some additional coverage to cover those gaps that the Medicare Advantage plans expose you to. So these plans have daily benefit amounts and then different periods as well that they work with. So just a quick little example that is you could have a plan that covers a daily benefit of 5 days because maybe that's how much you're responsible to pay for the copay on your Medicare Advantage plan. Or you could up it and you could have it for a 10-day plan. And then they do a different period as to how long they'll go. The max periods for those, it's going to be 30 days. However, I mean, that would definitely be a higher monthly premium on the plan, but some people might be interested in going that big with that. Some of the plans offer a lump sum benefit payout, and then most of the plans, I would say, with the carriers have a lump sum payout. For example, they have a cancer one for a lump sum, and you just have to add that on as a rider, and then you can determine what level that you want that at. And again, speaking to those riders here, we're going to talk more about what are some of those and what do they look like. One of the best parts about these plans is there is a restoration of benefits, meaning that you as the member, as you have used your plan, say you're hospitalized for 5 days, and then you go home and you don't use your plan for whatever the period is on the plan. A lot of them it's 60. It basically restores itself. So if you then later need to go, you're hospitalized again, you're going to get paid out again for that. Do you guys have any questions so far?
Kristen, this is Henry. Just a question. Is there any coordination between these and HSA? Is it one they consider one prior pay or anything like that?
No, so these would be just their own. I mean, you could probably use, if you still had an HSA that you were using, this would be a totally different plan.
So essentially, I could use it to conserve the HSA dollars for other kind of stuff like, vision or prescriptions or something that aren't covered by Part D.
Yes,
Is that correct?
absolutely.
All right.
Good question. So what are some of the policy highlights? These plans are offered, and again, here I have it written too, but it just depends on the carrier, but it's generally around this age period. So between age 18 to 85 are those individuals who would get a plan that is like this. A few of the carriers offer this guaranteed issue period, which is really nice. It's usually 64 to 67, sometimes 65 to 68. It just depends. Now, the guaranteed issue means that they will not deny you the coverage. You definitely will get it. But if for some reason in the medical underwriting questions, if there was one thing that, you did answer yes to, yes, I have been hospitalized in the last 12 months or something like that. If that was in their questions, then you would have a 6-month window where you would have to wait to be able to get reimbursement for the hospitalization again. But then after that, you can still get hospitalized. But at least then, if you fall into that age bracket, you will definitely get a policy. The underwriting, so each carrier has different underwriting questions. The one I mentioned just a second ago, maybe it also is, have you recently been diagnosed with lupus and being treated? Have you had a heart attack in the last 12 months? There's a lot of different questions, but that's what we can go through with you to make sure that you could answer all no's to them. And then the rates, they're actually locked in. So whenever you start a policy, you will never see rate increases from year to year. And then those rates are based on your age, male or female, where you live. And then of course we can just add on a bunch of riders and whatnot if you like. But those rates will be locked in. So they're meant to be affordable and flexible. There are no network requirements in today with your Medicare Advantage plan. You're very used to remaining within a network. So here, there's no networks. You can go anywhere and you will still receive that money since it's being paid directly to you. The policy will renew as long as you're paying your monthly premiums on time. So no worries there. It'll just continue to go and then stay at that locked in rate. And then those riders that I spoke to, we're going to talk a little bit more about those next. So here's just a few of the riders that you can get. Now, the ambulance service rider, some of the policies actually come with a little bit of additional coverage for ambulatory services for transportation, and it might be ground, water, air. It just depends on what the carrier has. But there is also an additional one that you can pay a little bit more for if you did need to take an ambulance ride. The skilled nursing facility. Now that one, your first 20 days, so day 1 through 20 is a $0 copay, but then days 21 to 100, there is a copay. And on a lot of the plans, I think it's like $188 per day for that chunk of time. So you can add on a rider. It could be exactly that amount or a little bit over, whatever you wanted to do, so that you didn't have to pay that amount for those days. The outpatient services. So if you have an outpatient service, you can add on additional riders so that you don't have to pay that copay. And that works in a few different ways as well. Example in a few slides, how that'll work. The lump sum cancer, you can choose the allotted amount that you want, and then you can do, it's like first diagnosis, or also they have a lifetime one. So a lot of options with these. Again, they just really want it to be flexible and cater to your needs and what you maybe have concerns for. The hospital confinement, this is an additional rider. This one, they do up to 1, 2, or 3 occurrences in addition to you just going and using whatever you have built on your days of the policy. And it's basically just, you're going to get more money than if you were in and out of the hospital up to 3 times within the year. The inpatient mental health, a lot of the carriers have this piece built right into the plan. It might not cover the entire copay that is on your current Medicare Advantage plan, but it is something that's built right in, or then you add this rider and you could, beef it up a little bit so that way it does cover that full copay. So those are just a few, just to give you a good little level highlight of what some of those riders can look like, but there definitely are more. So here's our first example. This is Mary. Mary lives here in our zip code where our office is located. She's 66 years old, retired, and so she's living on a fixed income now. She likes riding her bike with all of her friends. You can see her here on her bike. She broke her hip recently, and she was transported by ambulance to the ER. Finds out, yep, she does in fact have a broken hip, and she is now requiring surgery. So she's admitted to the hospital, and she has to stay 5 days. So with Mary's example, the left here, this is her Medicare Advantage plan, and this is an actual cost for a plan that is in our area right now. Mary's inpatient hospital stay, what she's held responsible for are days 1 through 5, paying $350. And then after that, her plan comes in and picks up the rest of the costs. But 5 days staying in the hospital is going to cost her $1,750, and she didn't feel comfortable with that. So she wanted to build this hospital indemnity plan to help cover the costs that are involved with that inpatient hospital stay. So on the right side here, we've got the hospital indemnity plan. She chose a plan that offered 6 days of coverage. So like I mentioned before, how there's all these different days that you can do for the coverage of the plans. If Mary had been hospitalized for 6 days, that means she's going to get that $1,750 to clear out those 5, and then she'll get an additional $350 for that 6th day, because that's how she built her plan. Some of them don't have, some of the carriers don't have a 5-day plan. So this was why we chose the 6-day plan. That way she at least had that coverage of what was on her plan. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Hopefully that makes sense. The ambulance ride, if she goes on an ambulance ride, her copay is $275. Now, The copay that's built into this specific hospital indemnity plan is at $250. So she still has a little bit that she has to pay with her ambulance ride, but she didn't really feel that it was necessary to up that. Where some of those ambulance rides in the hospital indemnity plan, you can up it a little bit to say 300 or 3. But again, back to Mary being retired, she's on a fixed income. So she really wanted her hospital indemnity plan to be lower. The emergency room copay on her plan is $110, and then built right into this hospital indemnity plan, she will receive $150 back. So she receives a little bit more than what the actual copay is on her plan. She also lives with someone who is 18 years or older, so she receives a 7% discount for her monthly premium. And the monthly premium on this plan that we built for her, it's $20.94. So because her monthly premium on her Medicare Advantage plan is $0, she felt okay that she can pay this $24.94 to help cover those costs on the Advantage plan. Now I left this the mental health care piece on there because just to show you how much that could be, because that too is the same as your inpatient hospital stay. And built into her plan, she'd get that $175 a day. So it doesn't completely cover it, but she thought that's fine. She didn't want to up it. That way it kept her at the $20.94 range. So all those copays that she had to pay to be hospitalized will go towards that maximum out of pocket, that $5,300. So she's slowly chipping away at that throughout the year. Doesn't have to satisfy it because it's not a deductible. But as she's chips away at that, then her hospital indemnity plan comes in and it reimburses her for that money. That is Mary's example. Now we'll talk about John. So John's a little bit older, not too much, but he's also lives in the same area. John is 69, and for him, we're going to look at what his plan here on the left offers him right now. And then he wanted a little bit more beefed up hospital indemnity plan. So he was totally fine with paying a little bit more because his monthly premium on his Medicare Advantage plan is $0. And just like Mary, he actually has the same plan as Mary, but we just selected a few other items to add on for him. So his inpatient hospital copay is going to be the same if he goes those 5 days. So he chose to just keep it at only 5 days. So he's not going to get an additional day like Mary would if she was in a 6-day policy. The outpatient hospital copay, if he were to have a procedure done, we selected this $500 one. He of course can only do it twice in a year, which it's pretty uncommon that he's going to have 2 surgeries every year. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But if he does, he pays that $325 gets paid, and then he gets the remainder of the $500. The skilled nursing, his concern was those days 21 through 100. That yes, he wants to make sure he's got coverage because he does not want to pay $188 for all those days. So he added on $190 per day that he'll be getting to cover those funds if needed. And then for the ambulance, this plan with this carrier was a different carrier than who Mary went with. And Mary, all right, let's see. I had to move you guys' picture so I could read this. He's going to get $300, and that's per occurrence. And it covers ground or air travel. And then same for the emergency room. This piece was built right in, like Mary's was. He'll get a little bit more than what the actual copay is for an ER visit. And then he didn't up his mental health care days. He just left him at the 175 because that too was built right in. But John, he has cancer that runs in his family. So he thought, maybe I should add just in case. And so he selected the very first option of the $2,500, and his first diagnosis, if he does get cancer, then they would pay him out that money. Now, his is a little bit more, of course, than Mary's, because look, he added on so many extra riders. So he's gonna pay $64.96 per month, but he's totally fine with that because his monthly premium is that $0 on his Medicare Advantage plan. You guys have any questions yet on any of that?
And Kristen, this is Henry. I'm assuming this is domestic coverage. Does any of this apply if you're traveling internationally and you have to rely on your Medicaid or your Medicare, or in my case, Private Health Medicare Advantage plan?
Was the question, does it matter if you, sorry, I couldn't hear the beginning. Was it
Okay,
if it's
in
international
terms of
travel?
domestic versus international. Clearly, this is domestic coverage, but what about international coverage?
Well, you don't have to remain within a network. So I will definitely look into that and I can get back with you just to make sure. But I
Awesome.
think that it should, because it's still a policy that you're paying for and you don't have to remain within the network. But you know what? Let me check, and it could also depend carrier to carrier.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. And it looks like we got one more. Hi, Priscilla. That just joined.
Hello.
Hello. All right. So really, we're kind of already to the recap here. And two, if you guys have any other questions, please let me know. These plans are they're meant to be affordable. We want to make sure that you can cover those gaps that you're exposed to with a Medicare Advantage plan. And the nice thing is they're so flexible that we can design them exactly to your needs. So also, like looking back at Mary's example, while she paid that $24.94, or I'm sorry, $20.90 some cents, had she changed the amount of coverage that she was getting per day for the hospitalization, if she only had it at $100, I mean, yeah, then she's still going to be left with $250 to pay each day. Then the plan was only $5 and some odd change. So they really just start to add up a little bit as you add things, but they definitely do make it affordable. And then the nice thing is that you're locked into your premiums. So the lowest premium that you're going to get is, at your current age. And then as you start aging, it's just going to go up if you were to start a plan later. Here at Cornerstone, Nancy and I work with a variety of different carriers. So we can look into 2 periods, and some of them do not. And then also they all have different medical underwriting questions. So that is just the beauty of that. We'll be able to hopefully find you something. And again, back to that, no networks are needed. And how would you enroll? So we can sit down together, look at your specific Medicare Advantage plan, look at what your copays are, see where maybe you have some concerns or what you would like to, just feel better about knowing that you have coverage. And then we just do it all online. The plans can start any day of the month. There are no waiting periods. However, if you were the guaranteed issue and say you get your plan, but you were hospitalized in their time frame of like the last 12 months, or if it was 6 months, you might have to wait 6 months with that carrier to receive benefits for that specific thing that you weren't able to answer no to. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, it was just kind of like a quick little recap of everything here. Do you guys have any questions on anything, or is this something that you think that you would maybe be interested in looking into further?
Yeah, Kristen, this is Henry. Yeah, I think I'll talk it over with Jan, but in terms of the overall efficiency, compared to paying down and taking money out of that HSA, it's really like long-term care. You're buying insurance against the cost, but you're also preserving those funds to pass on to the next generation if they're not used. So
Yeah.
it sounds like something we're thinking about anyway, for sure.
Okay, yeah, and we could sit down too if you guys want and just look at some quotes and just go from there, see if it's something that it is, that you maybe are interested in.
One other quick question that occurred to me. You talked about fixed rate. I'm assuming if you add or change the coverage, like by adding a rider, then they would reprice it at that point. So that would be establishing a new rate. Is that correct?
So that's a good question, because, we will want to look directly at the Medicare Advantage plan to see, well, what do you need and how do we want to base the hospital indemnity plan? And then year to year, those change. So what you can do is really, once you start your plan, you have 30 days to add riders or take them off. So if a year goes by and then you want to add new ones, then we would have to write a new policy. But it's not to say that you
Okay,
couldn't
that's what I
have
assumed.
2 policies if you were solely looking for just like one additional rider or something, but you wanted to keep the other one because you're locked in at a lower
Yep,
rate.
yep.
Yeah, so you could do that too.
Yeah, that makes sense. You
Yeah,
get all the basics on one, and you can add and subtract the other riders as need be. That's great.
good. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions, then we should be all set. The eval forms that I sent you in your email, if you could just answer those few questions. I think there's only 3 on there. And then just give me a little feedback, but otherwise we should be all set here today.
Tune into Cornerstone Retirement Partners' full radio program, Your Course to Retirement. Visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services.
Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes.